Winston Peters has used a speech in Parliament to make claims of a conflict of interest in the ongoing tobacco tax cut saga. Under a cloak of parliamentary privilege, Peters claimed Labor's Health Minister Aisha Verrall had a close relative who worked on papers on the topic. But her leader is backing her, saying Donald Trump is more coherent than our Deputy Prime Minister. Here's senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch.
Millions in tax cuts, overturning the world-first smoke-free generation law, tobaccos have done much better out of this government than the last. But Winston Peters is sick of the stick his minister is getting.
With a slew of accusations about New Zealand First, and in particular, the decisions of one of my ministers.
Labor's Aisha Verrall this week wrote to the Auditor-General calling for an investigation into the government's decision to halve the excise tax on heated tobacco products, budgeted to cost $216 million.
It is not a tax break. It is a gross overestimation with no merit or basis.
In Verrall's letter to the Auditor-General, she pointed to Treasury advice showing the initiative would only benefit one company, Philip Morris. She also alleged there is a revolving door between New Zealand First and the tobacco industry, that evidence points to tobacco industry influence on government policy, including that Philip Morris documents reveal it planned to influence the New Zealand government policy with the stated goal of removing the excise duty on heated tobacco products.
And a ham-fisted attempt at a political hit job.
So he came to the House with his own hit.
But in the last few days, it's come to my attention that a close relative of Aisha Verrall has been involved with, attending meetings and had access to papers and been advised the Minister on this very topic over the past year. Without declaring any conflict of interest, that is what's rotten in this borough.
Does she have a relative that was working on those papers?
I don't know. We all have, many of us, including me, have relatives, people who are close to us who work in the public service. It's a big leap to say that there's an unmanaged conflict of interest there, and that effectively appears to be what Winston Peters was doing.
The Labor leader says he's received assurances from Verrall.
And she has assured me that there is no issue here. So I think Winston Peters needs to be much more fulsome about what the allegation is that he is making.
Calling on Peters to front up with the facts.
What was the allegation you were making about Aisha Verrall?
You heard it.
What do you have to back that up?
Sorry, you heard it.
But even those sitting opposite left puzzled.
I didn't follow a lot of Winston Peters' speech, which is not unusual. I wasn't entirely clear what the allegation was that he was making. I think sometimes he makes Donald Trump look coherent.
Peters would not elaborate outside the debating chamber. He's only covered by parliamentary privilege in the House.
Are you able to tell us how close the relative is that you referred to?
Yes.
Could you please tell us?
No. Why don't you go and ask the Minister? Why don't you go and ask Verrall?
Well, you've made the allegation,
Why
Mr.
don't you go and ask Minister Verrall whether what I've said is true or false?
The person I understand is several steps removed, so a distant relative, and that any conflicts have been declared and managed. So the allegation that there's an unmanaged conflict here, which seems to be what Winston Peters was implying, is a fairly serious one.
A serious allegation.
And we are only just getting started, Minister. We are not going to leave off now. You're not going to get away with that sort of behaviour in or outside this House.
And apparently he's not done.
Well, all right, Jenna, have we heard from Aisha Verrall on the matter?
We have. I've just received a statement through from Aisha Verrall. She says that many people who work in politics have relatives in the public sector. That is the reality of living in a small country like New Zealand. She says they do their jobs professionally and any conflicts of interest are managed with their individual employers. She goes on to say on Winston Peters' specific allegation, I am confident that has been declared.
Jenna Lynch, thank you for that update.